Welcome gamers and trophy hunters to my 4th episode of the What to Platinum series with my wheel of over 450 games. The 4th spin landed on Final Fantasy XV, the Royal Edition, and as my first Final Fantasy game, this was an absolute delight to play. The combat, though odd to get used to at first, was fluid and cool. Using abilities in your gang's tech bar attacks was always a lot of fun to use, and the world design and story was really solid. As before, I'll rank the enjoyability and difficulty of the Platinum. Enjoyability I'll give a 7.5 out of 10, and difficulty is probably a 5 out of 10 due to some grinding and difficult fights. You start the game as a prince called Noct, sent on a journey from the king, Noct's father, to a place called Altissia with your 3 good friends and protectors, Gladio, Pronto and Ignis, to go and marry your beloved Lunafreya in a political union. This is one of the terms of the peace treaty of which his kingdom and the Niflheim Empire have declared to stop the ongoing war. As soon as Noctis and his friends leave the kingdom, the first trophy for completing the prologue popped. Before starting this Platinum, I of course had to check power picks to see if there were any missable trophies. There were not, however there were 2 trophies that should be worked on from the beginning of the game, which was to maximum level Gladio's survival skill and Pronto's photography skill. To do this I had to make sure I was photographing as many photos as I could in battle with Pronto's snapshot ability, and to basically run everywhere rather than fast travel to level up Gladio's. If I didn't do this prior to the end of the game, I would have had to grind immensely to max these levels, as even though I started doing this at the beginning of the game, these were some of the last trophies I actually got at the end of the plat. After leaving Noct's kingdom, and meeting a couple of important NPCs, I opened up the ability skill tree and unlocked my first ability, getting my next trophy. During my next enemy encounter, I got a blindside link, which happens after attacking an enemy from behind and RNG decides if one of your teammates attack with you. Shortly after this fight, I got a Link Strike parry, which can occur when Noct parries an enemy attack and your teammate joins in. Getting all the easy combat trophies out the way, I also did my first Ally Command trophy, which you can initiate after filling up the green tech bar on the side of the screen. Doing this unlocked my 5th trophy. I also unlocked a trophy for using a warp point, which fills up your MP bar, after which I went to a local tipster who gives you information and hunts. I accepted my first hunt, took down the beast, and then... During Chapter 1, Noct and his team end up fixing the Regalia, which is the car the gang used to traverse around the map during the game. The first time Noct hops in and drives it, the trophy popped. After completing some main quests, running around to quest destinations, and taking snapshots during battles, I upgraded both my photography and survival skills to level 2, unlocking trophy 9 and 10. With the absolute multitude of side quests that this game has to offer, to which I ended up completing pretty much all of them, I did my first one from a hunter called Dave, who ends up giving you quite a few quests over the game. After collecting the dog tag he wanted and delivering it to him, I got a trophy for completing my first side quest. Getting another easy trophy out of the way, I equipped a 4th weapon to my arsenal. Straight after, I used magic, even though I never used it again during the game, on an enemy, getting me the Black Mage trophy. Continuing on in Chapter 1, it turns out the peace treaty was broken, and that the Niflheim Empire has attacked the Kingdom of Insomnia and killed the king. Noctis then returns to the city of Insomnia to see it completely taken over by the Empire, thus concluding Chapter 1. During Chapter 2, I ran around the map doing some simple side quests, and after completing 5, I got a trophy for it. Leveling up in this game works slightly different, and is done by gaining EXP from quests and defeating enemies. However, the EXP tallies up until you go to rest at a lodge in a town, or by camping at campsites around the map, which then adds up your EXP and levels you up accordingly. At campsites, Ignis can cook up a delicious meal for you, and after doing this, I leveled up my cooking skill for the first time. In Chapter 2, the group learns that the peace treaty was a ruse, so that the Niflheim Empire could get the city's crystal and the Ring of Lucy, which are both things that they definitely would not want the Empire to have. Noctis learns that he has to find the souls of past kings which are nestled away in royal tombs, to inherit their souls and gain the power he needs to reclaim the throne. After a few main quests and collecting royal arms, which are the weapons that you gain from collecting the king's souls, Chapter 2 is concluded. More running around and taking photos whilst completing side quests then got me the complete 10 side quest trophy. I also missed another easy trophy to simply cast a spell, so I did that. After running around completing more side quests, I ended up having to catch a certain type of fish, and after doing this for a while and resting, I leveled up my fishing skill for the first time. Chapter 3 is where the story picks up. The gang head to Lestellum to see Gladio's sister Iris. During their journey they get a chance to go visit the Disk of Corthus, which is an ancient crater where a meteor was said to have fallen eons ago. The astral god Titan is said to still hold the meteor on its back. Titan is one of the 6 astral beings that the people believe to be gods. A mysterious guy called Arden appears, telling the group that he can take them to the Disk of Corthus. Wary but keen, the group set off with him to the crater. Continuing on with Arden, Noctis and his friends head to the crater, where Noctis ends up face to face with Titan. After having a vision of Lunafreya communicating with the Astral, he learns that she wants to rouse all 6 Astrals to help him on his journey. The Niflheim Empire start attacking Titan with Noct and the gang caught in the crossfire. During this fight, Noct uses Armiger for the first time, which is where he can attack continuously with increased strength using the King's Royal Arms for a short duration of time. This unlocks a trophy. After freezing Titan's arm and destroying it to free him, Noct forms a covenant with Titan. As the crater crumbles, Arden appears and rescues the gang, and he reveals himself to be the Chancellor of Niflheim. He helps them escape on his airship, but the group have no idea why the enemy seems to be helping them. Free from the crater, Chapter 4 comes to an end. During Chapter 5 I initiated a side quest, where Noctis is sent to go kill a beast that have been terrorising the Chocobos, which are birds that people travel on around the world. Killing this beast allows Chocobos to become available to hire again, and after hopping on one, I got a trophy. In Chapter 5, one of the 6 Astrals, Ramuh, is calling to Noct to form a covenant. Ramuh has a trial to which Noctis succeeds, and so the second Astral is now on the gang's side. After this, Noct gets word that the Empire have stolen their car, the Regalia, and so they make towards the Imperial base where it is being kept. After destroying the base and defeating all troops with the help of Ramuh, they attempt to leave with the Regalia, but as they attempt to, they are stopped by Lunafreya's older brother, Ravus. Ravus, who is now working with the Empire, tells them to stop making a pact with the Astrals without understanding the consequences. However, Arden appears again, allowing them to leave. After returning to Lestellum, Iris wants to evacuate the area, which is now becoming dangerous, and escape to the rural port of Caem. After unlocking more ability skills, I got a trophy for purchasing 20. Now that I have 2 Astrals fighting alongside me, sometimes during a battle you can summon one of them randomly to obliterate everything in sight. Doing this also gets the Divine Intervention trophy. I of course kept doing all the other miscellaneous stuff in between and end up completing 20 side quests. Lady Lunafreya has someone called Gentiana by her side, who is a high messenger who can commune with the gods. Gentiana seems to be following Noct around however, as sometimes when Prompto takes a picture, she can appear in it, which also unlocks a trophy if this happens. Chapter 6 is a very short one, with the gang going to destroy an Imperial base for avenging Jared, a friend of Iris's who was killed by the Empire. Upon taking down the base, Commodore Aranea Highwind fights them, but upon defeat, swiftly leaves. After returning to Caem, they hope to fix the king's ship at the secret harbour to escape the continent. In Chapter 7, to fix the ship, Noctis needs to collect a material called Mithril. The mysterious Arden appears again and gives the location of where the group can find it. The party also unite forces with Aranea, who is growing wary of the Empire's intentions, and accompanies you through the long and dark dungeon to gain the material. They then hitch a ride back to Lestellum from Aranea and bids them farewell. Chapter 8 sees Noctis head to a power plant, swarming with demons, to activate the Mithril so that they can fix the ship and head to Altissia. After returning to the harbour, the gang set off in the new ship. Chapter 9 is a long one, but to make things short and sweet to avoid spoiling everything for you guys if you ever want to play it, Noctis heads to Altissia where Lady Lunafreya is and wants to awaken one of the Astrals, Leviathan, to create a covenant. The Leviathan refuses and starts destroying everything. Whilst this is happening, Arden sneaks up on Lunafreya and stabs her, but with her last ounce of strength, she empowers Noct to fight Leviathan, as this is the only way the Astral will accept the Covenant. After defeating it with the help of Titan, he passes out and wakes up to learn that Lunafreya has died, and that Ignis had lost his eyesight in battle. A few weeks later, the group set off on a train to the capital of Niflheim, which is where the crystal is being kept. After a few stops, collecting a royal arm, and some motivational speeches about not mourning Lunafreya, the gang board the train once more and continue their journey, unaware that Arden is following them. The days seem to be shorter with more demons appearing. After the passing of Lunafreya, the world's daylight seems to be gradually disappearing, and so the crystal is now extremely important to get back, as it has the power to fight darkness. The train is surprise attacked by the Imperial army, and Ardyn is taunting Noctis as he seems to disappear every time Noct gets close. After defending the train from the Imperials, Noct sees Ardyn holding Prompto at gunpoint on top of the train. Noctis charges at Ardyn and pushes him off, but to his horror he realises he pushed off Prompto, and that Ardyn had messed with his mind. Ardyn then knocks Noctis out. The party are unable to stop the train to look for their friend, and word has gotten out that Ravus has been killed for high treason, thus ending the Oracle bloodline. Without Lunafreya holding back the darkness, daylight is becoming minimal, making the finding of the crystal now a dire mission. Aranea has also quit the Empire and is now aiding Noct and his friends. After learning that Gentiana is one of the 6 astrals called Shiva, and that Ardyn is immortal and uses power from the darkness itself, the party continue on their perilous journey to the capital, to where they now know Prompto is being held captive. After arriving at the capital, the group gets separated and Noct loses his powers. After a long wild goose chase with Ardyn constantly teasing Noct, he ends up face to face with the crystal. And as he is getting sucked into it, he learns that Ardyn was originally meant to be king thousands of years ago, but was rejected by the crystal because of his affinity with the darkness. Now unable to die, he has plotted revenge on the bloodline and the crystal, and wants to kill Noctis when he is true king, rather than immortal, as that would not suffice his satisfaction. Within the crystal's otherworldly dimension, Noct meets the astral Bamut, who explains to him he can banish the darkness from the world, but also sacrifice his own life in the process. To make things short, Noct is in the crystal for 10 years absorbing its powers, goes to fight Ardyn and then sacrifices himself, allowing all the darkness to be banished from the world. Ending chapter 15 and the last story related trophy. I also forgot to mention that I got a trophy for defeating one of the last bosses, Ifrit, on normal difficulty, which occurs just before the Ardyn boss fight. This dude is one of the astrals and was a slightly difficult fight, but nothing too hard. I also got a trophy for activating 50 abilities from the skill tree. Now for the mop-up trophies, which was to fly the Regalia Type F, which was accessible to build after the main story and is literally now a flying car, to play on one of the old video game arcade machines located around the world, completing 40 side quests and then 80 side quests, collecting all 13 royal arms by doing all dungeons and tombs, and finally maximising Prompto's survival level. After this, it was time for the big boy trophy. This was to kill the Adamant Tortoise, which is this absolutely massive monster terrorising the people, and had over a whopping 5 million health. So I kid you not when this thing took over 30 minutes to actually take down. All that was left was to max out the rest of the character's skills, so I started off running for an hour or two around the map and was still at around level 8.5, so I rubber banded my controller for another hour or so to max this level out. It was then time to do some fishing with Noct, and after a few hours of catching lots of different fish, I maxed that skill out. Then all I had to do was constantly rest at campsites and cook many different meals with Ignis to max out his cooking skill. Once all this was done, the well-deserved platinum was mine.